Hey folks, Scott here with Glowforge. Thank you so much for joining me again today. Today, I thought I would do a workthrough of creating a design for the Glowforge for a finished project, or for creating a design that can be sold on Etsy or wherever you want to sell your designs, your SVGs or PDFs. So I'm going to walk you through from beginning to end. I won't show you the cutting process. I don't really think that's necessary, but I wanted to share with you how I design a sign. In this case, what we call our lake sign. And I thought I'd go through the CorelDraw 2021 version of the workthrough of creating this particular file. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope it's helpful. I hope it inspires you in some way. Thank you again for all of the support that everybody's showing me. I really appreciate it. Love the Glowforge community. The laser cutting community, or the maker community in general, is just incredible. So if you haven't already joined, I encourage you to do so. Go out there, get your laser cutter, start creating amazing things. You're going to love it. If you do want to buy a Glowforge, I can save you a little bit of money. They got a beautiful referral program, so go ahead and use the referral link in the description below, and let's get started on this design. Again, hopefully I'm doing it live. Like, I recorded the the voiceover while I was actually designing it, and I'm recording this intro after I designed it. So anyway, again, I hope it's helpful in some way. I'm using CorelDraw 2021. So the terminology that I'm going to be using is for that particular piece of software. It's going to be fairly similar, as I mentioned in the voiceover for the design, to your design software, whether you're using like Inkscape or GIMP or Illustrator or any of the above. So yeah, hope you like it. Thanks very much, folks. I'll see you at the end of the video, or actually I won't. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao for now. Okay, hey again. We've got our graphic design program open, which in this case is CorelDraw 2021. And as you can see on the screen, we've got a beautiful scene here. It's a vector graphic of a dude in a canoe, obviously on a lake by some mountains. And what we're going to do today is we're just going to create a quick little sign for the cottage called Lake Life. And you'll have to forgive my mouse, it's acting up for some stupid reason. But anyway, we've got our text here, so let's print out our text, or type out our text, I should say. And we're going to center it in the bottom here, and we want to choose a nice font for this particular project. So we're going to go ahead and use Andita, I don't know. Anyway, it's that one, which is a pretty popular font in the maker community. It's a beautiful font, actually. This is one of my favorite fonts to use for particularly cottagey kind of home decor, where there's going to be some text on the design. And what we want to do today is we're going to actually combine all this into a wall mountable sign. So what I want to do is I want to create a border around this. We're going to add some little screw holes. It's going to be great. So I wanted to show you the process that I go through to create something like this. So now we've got our Lake Life text on the screen with our vector design. We want to make sure that our vector design is welded or combined. And what I mean by that is, if I show you this, if I highlight this particular graphic, just watch some of the elements, like particularly where the graphic meets each other. Okay, you'll start to notice little abnormalities when I hit combine. You see how just down here, where you can see the little word, the edge there. See that little white area right there? That showed up, as well as this showing up, where there's an intersection of this guy, the silhouette of this man, with the edge of this stylized canoe. You see how it's almost like this graphic is separate, and it's intersecting with the line of this canoe right here at the edge. So what we want to do is go ahead and undo that, and we want to make sure that we're welding these elements together so that we don't get those weird separations between each of the elements of the graphic. The reason being is because when this graphic hits the Glowforge bed and you tell the Glowforge to engrave this or cut it or whatever, it's going to take into account every little element and detail of what you've got in this design. So it's super important to make sure that all those design elements are welded, especially the ones you're going to be engraving. So we're going to go up here and we're going to click Weld. And now if we move this around, you can actually kind of see, if you look at that graphic that I've got, the blue outline, you can see that there are no weird, everything is joined together. Like if you look at that man where he's connected to the canoe, it's like the canoe and the man are now one piece. and all of the mountains are one piece, and the water around the canoe is with the canoe in one piece, so that's good. That's exactly what we wanted. So we welded those elements of that vector graphic together. Very important to do, regardless of the graphic that you're using, whether you're designing yourself or whether you're using a vector graphic that you've got off of Vecteezy or freepik.com or whatever the case may be, but make sure that you weld those together, okay? Now we've got that unified graphic. Perfect. We also want to do the same thing to our text, to the font, because unfortunately fonts don't naturally come converted to curves or traced or made as one unified item. Each letter is taken into consideration separately when you type out a font like this. So if you've got a script where, let's say this I here is joining the F, or the L overlaps the F, if I turn this into if I just let the Glowforge engrave this lake life as is, you're going to see that it's going to skip out. It's actually going to engrave twice here, once for the F and then another time for the L that's overlapping. So we want to make sure that we turn this lake life into curves. So we're going to go up to in CorelDraw. Again, I'm not sure what the process is like for Illustrator or some of the other, I can't remember, Inkscape I think it's called, or GIMP or any of the other graphics programs that you might be using, but I go up to Object, and it will be, the terminology will be similar. I want to go to Convert to Curves, okay? I want to make sure that this lake life is now a single object. What I've done basically is, as you can see by the blue outline, you can now see what I was talking about earlier, where in life you could see the L and the I are intersecting with the F in life, much the same way as the A and the K are intersecting with one another, as well as the E. So we want to make sure that even though we've created curves for this particular item and turned it into one unified item, we also want to make sure that we weld those letters together. So we're going to go up to Object again, Shaping, and then we're going to weld them together. Okay, now there's no more, if we take this over here and show you, see how all of the items are now sort of unified together. They're joined together like it's one solid item, as opposed to, individual letters kind of thing. So we've got our lake life there, and we've got our vector graphic, which is now a single item. I want to pull this further into my design field here. And by the way, what I've done here is I've set up my page, as you'll notice, as the size of the material that I'm using in the Glowforge, which in this case is going to be the Columbia Forest Products walnut or maple or cherry or hickory, any one of the 1/4 inch plies that they sell on Home Depot. HomeDepot.com or HomeDepot.ca, either one. I use Columbia Forest products almost exclusively, simply because I get a good consistent quality of them. They're not a sponsor. I wish they were. Maybe one day. Anyway, so yeah, I use them because I just get consistently good quality out of the product, and it's cut to the shape and the size and the form of the Glowforge. So that's it's easy for me. So now what we want to do, we've got our beautiful little scenery here with lake life and this beautiful mountain with the canoer. What we can do is, if we wanted to say, I don't know, group everything together, okay, by hitting group, and perhaps adding a contour to all of this. And by contour, what that means is like an offset, okay? So I'll show you what I mean. It basically draws like an outline, a thin outline, all the way around all of the elements in the drawing here. So let's go ahead and apply that. And by the way, you want to make sure that the contour or the offset is set to the outside, because a lot of graphics programs will offer the opportunity to do an inside contour or to a center contour. What we want to do is draw an outline around the outside of it so that we have this nice sort of border around everything. So we want to make sure that the contour alignment is outside. These steps, we only want one. We don't want concentric or continual contours, so we only want one contour, one offset. So we're going to set that steps to 1. And our offset determines how far away from the original graphic that outline is going to be. So in this case, I've got it set to inches, and it looks like we're 0.21 of an inch, which is almost 1/4 of an inch in terms of the contour offset. So let's make sure that we've got our corners rounded. We don't want spiky corners or right angles or 45-degree angle corners. We want nice rounded corners. And the color blend doesn't really matter, but we want the outline to be black. We want the fill to be white because we don't want it as a thick sort of outline. We want it to be like a border kind of thing, a thin border. So let's go ahead and click apply, and you'll see what happens. Whoa, nothing happened. We see that the nodes kind of increase, so we know that something has happened on the screen, but there's nothing there. Why is there nothing there? It says here that there should be a contour because it says clear contour. Well, here's what's happened. What we need to do is we need to go to Object, we need to break the contour apart, and then we need to add an outline to it. So I'm going to go over here to the outline tool, or the line tool, okay, and I'm going to go and click on hairline, because now, oh, there we go, now we've got an outline around everything. However, we don't necessarily want an outline around everything, because now it looks like there's this evil lightning coming down on this canoer. That doesn't look good at all. So let's go ahead and get rid of that contour, because I'm not a fan. So we'll hit Control-Z or Control-Z for those of you south of the border, and we'll do it again and clear the contour. You see what happens there is that because we've got three separate elements, we've got lake life, we've got this canoer, and we've got the mountains. It's taking into account that we want to do a contour around each of those separate elements. So what we want to do is we want to ungroup all of those things, and we want to combine them into one object. So now all of these elements are considered one object in CorelDraw. Now I'm hoping that what I'm about to do is going to work, because I've never actually done this. So I'm learning with you on this one. But we've got our contour alignment set to outside. We've got our 0.21 offset, rounded corners, our outline's black, our fill is white. We're going to hit apply after we've combined all these items, and we've got a contour that we see has just done its thing. Go to Object, break contour apart, go to the outline tool, and we're going to apply a hairline. Oh, and look what happened. So this is interesting, right? We don't want this thing happening. We don't want the contour happening like this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and add our border now. What I want to do is I want to make a frame out of this, okay? Because we want to mount this on the wall. So let's make sure that we sort of create this little rectangle here. And as you'll notice, I'm sort of overlapping some of the contour here, okay? You see where I've got the mountain contour, it's overlapping the edge of the frame, and down here the water in the canoe, and the tail of the E in life, etc. So I'm doing that for a reason, okay? I'm doing that because I'm going to weld these elements together. And you'll notice that as I go ahead and do this, I'm going to do an internal border as well. And I'm not trying to be perfectly accurate here, I'm just doing this for illustrative purposes. I want to make sure that I increase the size of the frame so that it'll accommodate everything and intersect with what I want it to intersect with. Okay, there we go. We're just going to increase the size of the frame here. Perfect. Okay, excellent. So now we can see that the mountain top there, and the edge of the water, and the E, and the F down here, and some of the water on that side are intersecting with my border. So I want to make sure that I create this border as a single item. Okay, so what I want to do is, again, combine those items together. Now this frame, as you can see, is one item as I move it around. Okay, we're going to put it back where we wanted it to. Now, if we go ahead and click, we've got the frame that we just made selected. We hold our Shift key down, and we're going to click on the outline for the mountaintop. Okay, so now we've got this, sorry, there's a fly around me that's flying into my face as I'm doing this. This little bugger. Anyway, I want to go ahead and get the frame selected as we already had, and then I'm holding my Shift key down, and I'm going to select just the edge of the mountaintop outline of the contour here, okay? Then what I want to do is hit weld. And you'll notice that if I Control-Z that, or Control-Z, you'll notice, watch the top of the mountainside as I redo this again, okay? As I weld those items together, you see what happened there? It turned into one item. The contour and the frame are now one item. So this is really cool, because when we've got something like, well, let's rewind this for a little bit here, okay? Let's go back to adding that contour to the items. And let's say we don't even want the, let's just rewind completely here. Let's say we don't want the canoer and the mountain. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of those guys. Let's delete that. And let's pretend that we just want to do the lake life inside a nice frame. Okay, just for purpose of ease here, we're going to do a nice lake life thing without the graphics. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to illustrate to you how welding works with a frame. That was really the point of this exercise, and without belaboring it or going into, you know, silly details that aren't working for us. And by the way, I'm recording this live in case you didn't realize. So let's go ahead and intersect this frame with the elements of the text. And again, that's important because when we weld it, we want the contours of that lake life to combine with the frame. So let's go ahead and get this frame selected. We're going to hold our shift key down and select the interior rectangle there, and we're going to combine them so now we have a single frame. We're going into our lake life here. Let's just put that to the back. Make sure those are combined. Oops, no, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Okay, we're going to make sure that we send that to the back layer just by hitting the shift key and page down. I'm not sure again what your graphics program does, but that's how it is in Corel. Shift key, page down, sends whatever selected item you have to the back layer. You can also bring something forward by hitting shift key and page up. Okay, so we've got our lake life here. Now we want to apply that contour that we love so much. And we're going to go to Object, break contour apart, go to our outline tool, apply a hairline outline, so we've got that beautiful contour now with lake life. So great stuff. Look at that. Beautiful. It's already intersected with our frame. What we're going to do is actually grab our frame for a second. We're just going to increase the size of it by dragging that node just out a touch there. That looks like it's going to be just about perfect. We move that around just like that. Okay, fantastic. So now we've got this great contour around lake life. We've got our frame in the background, which is one item. We want to make sure that we're welding these two items together, and I'll explain why in a moment. But let's go ahead and do that. We're going to grab the contour for lake life, and then we're going to grab our frame. We're holding the shift key down, and we're going to click on the edge of the frame. Now we have those two items selected together, and we're going to go to Combine. And Combine will create, not Combine, Weld. So we're going to click on Weld, and that's going to create one item. So now, the reason we've done that is because when the Glowforge, when you send this as a PDF or an SVG, whatever file you prefer to use, when you send this to the Glowforge, now what it's going to do is it's going to cut out the negative space. I'll show you what I mean. Let's put a black rectangle. Whoops, a daisy, we didn't want that happening. Let's put a black rectangle behind everything so I can show you what I mean by the negative space. Of course, that didn't work. Anyway, the negative space is this space in here, okay? The space that's in between the letters, these little parts in here, as you can see, okay? Like this loop here in the L, the background in between the letters in the text, and then, you know, this sort of stuff here. Anyway, so the Glowforge is going to cut those elements out. It's going to cut the outer edge of this square out. It's going to engrave the text, and it's going to cut out anything we leave as an outline, okay? So it'll cut all of this stuff out, leaving the frame and the text with that outline, with that contour, as a kind of like a stencil kind of thing. And then what we do is, let's make this smaller here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make a frame by using the same outline that we've got around lake life, the outer edge of this frame here. We're basically going to duplicate that exact frame by just drawing a rectangle and snapping to the nodes of that original frame. And now what we've got is a rectangle frame that we're going to cut out on the Glowforge as a second layer. So what happens is this original lake life layer will be cut out, and all these parts in between here will be cut out. And we can then glue that part onto the backing, and we have a layered effect for lake life. So we've gone ahead and we've created this outer frame. We've welded the text together with that frame, so we've got this beautiful sort of lacy stencil of lake life, and then we've got an identical sized outer frame of the original frame down here that we're going to cut out as a separate element on the Glowforge so that we can glue these two pieces together using this new rectangle down here as the backing to this, okay? Now, let's say, for instance, we want to, let's get rid of this because I want to show you something about how we would mount this particular sign. Let's say, for instance, we want to provide some holes, pre-drilled holes, or pre-cut holes in this case, for people to screw this particular project onto a wall. You can do it one of two ways. You can do it where you just grab a little sort of circle and you create like an 1/8 of an inch circle. Okay, right here we'll create a hairline outline for that circle. Okay, and we know that an 1/8 of an inch is 0.125 in terms of a decimal. So let's go 125 up here in our dimensions area form here, and we're going to change that to 1.25 as well. And now we've got an 1/8 of an inch circle. Okay, so what we can do is we can add this circle to anywhere inside where we know there's going to be a solid piece of wood. Okay, so we can add it there if we want. We can add it in the corners. You can just put it up in the corner up here. Now what's going to happen is if we put that there, the Glowforge is going to cut that hole out. So we can even make that smaller. We can make that a 1/16 of an inch if we want. I think that's 0.25, something like that. No, 0.375 maybe. I think that's what it is. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and make that hole smaller. Now you can go ahead and put each of those circles in each corner of this frame, and Bob's your uncle. You got 4 pre-drilled sort of circles where somebody can, screw a screw into it and mount it to the wall. We want to be a little bit fancier than that though. So we're going to get rid of that, and not only that, but if we have a circle here, what happens is the Glowforge is going to cut this out, and we haven't got a lot of space in between the circle's edge here and the edge of the frame, or here for that matter. So what we've got is a compromised integrity of product here, which could present a problem if somebody's a little aggressive with a power drill, or they've just got superhuman strength when they're using a screwdriver, and they can over tighten that screw and crack the frame, and then you got a problem because their beautiful brand new Lake Life sign is now split on the corners, and they're not happy, and likely they're going to blame you. So what we want to do is just make sure that the product is nice and durable for our customers. So we're going to take that circle, and instead of making a drill hole there, let's do something a little bit fancier. What we can do is make the circle a little bit bigger, and we're also going to make another circle, and we're going to create this circle to, I don't know, about an 1/8 of an inch or so, which is decent for the pilot hole of a screw. And we've got a donut here. You've seen me do this in a previous video. I want to make sure that that outline is hairline as opposed to 0.5 point. The reason being, it just looks cleaner, and it avoids situations where the Glowforge mistakes an outline for something like an engrave or score, or between a cut and an engrave. It just lessens the things that you have to do in the Glowforge software if you apply a hairline outline to everything as opposed to a 0.567 or whatever it might be on your graphics program. So I've gone ahead and done that for everything here on the frame on the Lake Life sign. Now we've got this beautiful donut. What we want to do is we're just going to add this to the side at the midpoint of the sign. And of course, I don't want it overlapping that much. So let's go there, where we've got the outer edge of the inner circle touching the outer edge of the frame here. See what I mean? There's like an inner circle here, and the edge of it is kind of touching along this the edge of this frame that we've got here. So let's leave that there. We know it's exactly halfway down the sign. Okay, that's probably the best place to put it. And now what we want to do is we want to combine this donut, these 2 concentric circles here, we want to combine that into one item. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to weld that with our Lake Life sign. So we've already got the circle selected, it's one item. We're now going to hold our shift key down, and we're going to select the edge of the sign. And now what it's done is selected the sign and this donut that we've created, and we want to make sure that we weld those together. Whoa, look at this. Boom! We've got now a little bit of a fancier screw hole here thingy that's a little bit more decorative. If we Control Z or Control Z out of that, and we take this donut we've already combined, we're going to duplicate that by Control D in CorelDraw. We're going to find the midpoint over here. We've got it, and we just want to zoom in here, and we're going to move that over so we've got the outer edge of the circle again on this side touching the outside edge of our frame, and we're going to go ahead and weld the frame and the donut together again by holding our shift key down, selecting the donut and the frame together, and then click weld. Okay, so now we've got that one done. We're going to go ahead and do the same over here again so we don't forget this one. Hold our shift key down, click the outer edge of the frame, and click weld. And now we've got this beautiful Lake Life sign which we'll have 2 layers of. But what happened to the second layer, Scott? It's disappeared. No, it hasn't. We actually added a new element with these 2 screw holes, these pilot holes, that we now have to duplicate in the second layer so that we have identical layers on both identical layers for both of these layers. So let's go ahead and take the outer edge of that frame. Okay, we're going to break the curve apart. Here's why. Or sorry, we're going to break these the nodes apart and the object apart because this new object that we've got here, it's all combined. Okay, so if we went ahead and just duplicated that, it's going to give us everything. You see, it's going to give us all of the outlines. We don't want that. So we'll Control-Z that. We'll break this apart. Again, I apologize if your graphics program uses different terminology. It probably should be very similar. But anyway, we're going to break these curves apart so that the nodes apart so that we actually just have the outer edge of this frame as opposed to all of the lake life and the inner edge at the same time. So let's go ahead and break that apart. And what we want is just the outer edge. And we want to hold our shift key down and we want to grab those 2 circles on the inside of the donuts there too because they've been deselected, as it were, when we broke everything apart. Now what we're going to do is we are going to copy and paste or duplicate, whichever your preference is, what we have selected here. So let's go ahead and do that. Boom. Now we have our second layer, which is exactly the same shape and size as our original layer, only it doesn't have the lake life in it, and the Glowforge will cut this out as a layer that we can now glue this first layer onto. And it has identical pilot holes around the edges there for our screws. The reason why that's important is because for stability's sake and for durability of the product, you've now got 2 layers of the pilot hole as well. So it's actually going to be either 1/4 of an inch if you're using 1/8 inch product, so 2 layers of 1/8 inches, 1/4, or it's going to be 1/2 inch if you're using 2/4 inches. I like to use the 1/4 inch Columbia Forest products, as I mentioned, so entirely up to you what you guys use. So now we want to go back to our first layer. There are certain elements of this first layer that I'm not happy with, and I want to get rid of them. And the reason being is because it just looks messy and there's really no need for them. And that's what I'm talking about here is these tiny little sort of areas where the program, the graphics program, has applied the contour. Remember that offset that we chose here for the lake life text? It's applied that contour in the very slightest way on the inside of some of these letters. I like to get rid of those because I don't want them there, and I make a judgment on which ones I get rid of just for design's sake. Like, I don't want them too skinny. I think this one up in the corner can go away as well because that adds some durability to the corner of the sign. Let's go ahead and get rid of this tiny one between the F and the E, and we'll get rid of that one in the tail of the E as well. Everything else looks pretty good. I leave the big ones behind, like the capital letter ones, and if there's a huge letter or whatever, I leave those ones behind as well. But now it looks just a lot more clean. So we've got this gorgeous lake life sign. Now you can do some really cool stuff, like let's say for instance you wanted to add some, I don't know, some trees up here or something like that. Not that that would really, you know, go along with the lake life theme, but let's say for instance we wanted to add our canoe guy back in this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and import him back in. Okay, I've got the graphic here. I'm going to import it. I won't show you how to do that, but it's I've downloaded this graphic from my favorite vector graphics site. We're going to go ahead and ungroup that. All I want is the canoe guy. I don't want the mountains. I don't want the outdoor adventure. I don't want canoe lake or any of the other elements. I just want this guy. So I've gone ahead and ungrouped it all and then deleted the stuff that I didn't want. I'm going to go ahead and select all of this element. Remember that the program treats, or this vector treats this guy as a separate element to the canoe and the water. So we want to make sure we go ahead and weld those together, and now we've got a single item. Let's go ahead and check that just to make sure. Yep, we can see our outline and we can see that the guy is a part of the canoe and there's no issues there whatsoever. Perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and put him up here. Okay, let's approximate center there. And what we want to do is we want to create a contour around this guy here. So let's go ahead and go over to our contour tool again. We've got our settings already. We want to make it the same as our lake life so that there's some continuity and uniformity in the design. So we're going to leave everything as is here. We're going to hit apply, And now we've got a contour around our dude in the canoe. Let's go ahead and break that contour apart. And we're going to go ahead and apply a hairline outline to that particular element. Now we can see that it's already intersecting with our frame. So all we got to do is select the contour, go ahead and hold our shift key down, hold the shift key and select the outer part of the frame of our original layer of lake life, and we're going to go ahead and click weld. Now you can see that it's welded the contour of this canoe guy to the top of our sign, and if we go ahead and break that apart again, we can actually get rid of that little sliver. Remember that I was telling you about those little elements that I don't really like? Let's just go ahead and get rid of that one. And now we have a lake life sign with our canoer that we originally wanted right there front and center on the top of it. You'll notice that when I did the contour, it added a hairline outline to the element. I don't want that, so I'm going to go ahead and select the outline tool and click none, because I don't want an outline. Sometimes the Glowforge will treat the outline as a separate element that it engraves separately, so you get an extra scorching kind of thing to a design element that you don't necessarily want. So we've gone ahead and eliminated that. Let's just make sure that our, you see the lake life text has also got a hairline outline here, so we're going to go ahead and click none on our outline tool so we get rid of that. Okay, looks good. Ready to print, right? Not necessarily. The reason being is because we've gone ahead and added another element to this original top layer. So now what we have to do is we got to get rid of this layer. This layer is no good anymore, right? Because all it's going to do is give us a backing for the rectangle and the pilot holes. We don't want that. We actually want this whole thing to be, durable, and to have a second layer that's going to be also taking into account the new element of the canoer that we've added there. So let's go ahead and get rid of that second layer, and we're going to go ahead and select our original frame, and we're going to duplicate it, or control copy, or whatever it is, copy paste. Oh, wait a second, I forgot to add something. I forgot to add those little pilot holes. Remember these little guys? So we're going to hold our shift key down and we're going to drag our selector over top of those two little donut holes, and then we're going to duplicate so we make sure we've got those pilot holes in the second layer as well. Okay? So now we have an identical second layer to our first layer, and we've got this great little sign that we can now make as big as we want. We can actually, if we really like to, we can group all of these together, and we can rotate them 90 degrees like so, and we can even fit, perhaps if we're lucky, we can fit, oh, they're all grouped together. I got to ungroup them so I can select individual items. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to grab that, I'm going to group that together, and I'm going to move it closer to my original top layer there. There, that's about as far as I'm comfortable with. And now we can actually copy and paste or duplicate the sign. Oh, can we squeeze it on? Oh, can we squeeze it? Oh, I bet you we can if we do some creative assembly here. Okay, so I have a feeling we can fit 4 layers on this. You may be able to do it a different way. We actually could do it this way too. I think maybe we might be able to do, we rotate it back like this, maybe we can do the 4 elements on one sheet. Wouldn't that be nice? Save some money. Profit. Oh, look at this. Beautiful. I think it fits. So now what we've done here is we've got our lake life sign. Pardon the clicking on my keyboard. I got one of those mechanical jobs, and it's noisy. It's lovely, but it's noisy. Okay, so there we go. Look at this economy, profitability, folks. You're learning it all here today. All right, so we've got 2 lake life signs with our canoer, with our pilot holes, with 2 layers. This is good times. You go ahead, you save this as, you go to File, Publish to PDF, and you can create a PDF of this beautiful sign, and then you can import it into your Glowforge software and print it beautifully just like that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you well, maybe we'll do it now. Let's see here. I got Glowforge set up. Here we go. Let's go ahead and get rid of that one. That's one I'm working on as well, but we'll go ahead and get rid of that one. The Glowforge is offline, but it doesn't matter. We're just going to add that file that we created here So we're going to save it, publish it as a PDF. We'll call it Lake Life. There we go. Save it. And then we're going to go back to our Glowforge software. We're going to hit our plus button. We're going to upload, find our Lake Life PDF. It'll process the graphic, the design. We've chosen thick walnut as our material here. Okay, you can choose whichever one you want, but I chose thick walnut because that's likely what I'll be printing this on. You'll see now that it's got engrave, engrave, and cut for all of the elements that we want engraved and cut just the way we designed it. Let's move our design so that it fits into the material. And we can go ahead and we can customize the engraving if you want. I normally use full speed and about 80 power. So I'll go ahead and I'll highlight the precision power here. I can use the slider too if I want, but I just type it into right there, and I'm going to change that to 80. I'm going to leave the lines per inch at 225. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the other one is also the same. So I want to go to power and go 80 full speed. So we've got everything. Everything looks good. Everything fits on the, oh no it doesn't. What happened over here? Why is that saying, oh that's because we're off the, see what happened there? This design was off of the material. See this white line on the edge? The Glowforge has a maximum printable area, so it grays out the area that you can't have a design in. Once your design goes over that white kind of border, that grayed out border, it goes into a separated line thing like this red that you see on the screen here. So we just need to move that over until it goes back to red and blue. This one looks like it's good to go. Okay, let's move that over just in case. Okay, so we got our two Lake Life signs. We've got everything engraved properly and cut properly. We just want to make sure that everything looks good, that the cuts are where they're supposed to be, that we haven't missed out any elements of the signs, because you want to do the check work here as opposed to getting it cut and you're an hour into a project on the Glowforge and lo and behold something is not cutting or engraving the way that we wanted it to. So everything looks great here. We can go ahead and hit the big magic button there and then go ahead and let our Glowforge do the rest of the work for us. So there you go. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that you guys are creating your little butts off out there and making awesome things happen with your Glowforge or your laser cutter. Thank you so much for watching today. Really appreciate your support. Go ahead and click the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much for the support there too. Hit the like button, smash the notification bell so you know when we drop new videos. My name's Scott. Thank you again so much for watching. Ciao for now.